Sandy, can I just
Yes.
share just how valuable Kelly talked about as a whole district, how valuable having that the support from the entire system was to us. It wasn't just us by ourselves trying to create support for these kids. We actually had the social workers and the mental health counselors, and that was one of the key things that really helped us, was having that system-wide support. Because a lot of times if a kid in middle school was having attendance problems, the elementary school was having a similar problem, and being able to coordinate between those two locations was really helpful. And that came through the district.
Interesting comment. Let me ask you a question for any of the three of you. Did you see any particular type of student or category of student, or any particular high risk group that you had more attendance challenges with?
I think if I could comment to that for just a moment, at least at the elementary level. If you think about it from two platforms, one, the COVID era where we had students that were joining virtually, there was a big challenge for children and families to log in with childcare issues. So we would often get families calling to say, we don't have anybody to help support. So my child's going to daycare, my child's going to a babysitter. So what you saw happen that I thought was absolutely wonderful, which is part of what we talk about when we speak about our district and the wraparound support, is community agencies started stepping in, and churches got involved and daycares got involved to help make sure that our children weren't losing instructional time. And they started stepping up to be that educational support, or that peer tutor support, to help make sure everybody was logged in. And I think that was one of the things. But children with, families with daycare issues was really big for us. And I was grateful for how our community could step up and kind of provide support and help everybody have access.
And I'll add to that too, one of the things that we also had to deal with is we have staff who had fears too. Wow. And who were nervous about coming back to school. And so one of the things that we had to work with human resources to support our teachers in that process too. But as schools are doing their interventions with families, I think too, it's important for the district for us to support all of the schools. And so even if something as simple as jumping on the National Attendance Awareness Campaign that's going through this month. And one of the things that we're doing is a real push on social media, that we have our D5, the hashtag D5 everyday posters for our students. And every week we have a different question for our teachers, our administrators, or our students to answer. And each week is a different theme. So, last week was about what routines and habits do you have to get to school on time, to share so we can learn from each other. Second week is, what relationship do you have on campus with an adult that encourages you? What adult encourages you to come to school? The third week is, what activities are you involved in at school that they're counting on you to attend? And, then we pose it to teachers. How are you increasing engagement in your class so that students are motivated to come? So the whole month of September really for our district is real reminder, in addition to the training and Avian offers, Ms. Coleman offers those additional trainings too that we promote. But it's steadily reminding teachers and administrators, every time you get on the phone with a parent, talk attendance. Every time you have a presentation, a PTO meeting, an SIC, a family dinner, thank you for attending. Attending school every day, always put in the attendance blurb, because sometimes attendance can be the gray cloud in the sky that we've got to get to, but we've got to deal with the angry parent in the office that's right in front of our face. But we're slowly learning and realizing that if we look at attendance, we really can tell everything we need to know about a student and how we need to intervene. So really taking the attendance data and navigating through that to direct other steps with instruction and behavior. So has been beneficial for us.
I'm a school social worker at an elementary school in Beaufort County. I have a question because I'm just looking, I'm very desperate to figure things out with attendance as far as it's parents for us in elementary school, and taking vacations. And I'm finding this year we're in our 5th week of school and already it's become an issue, and the parents don't care. They're not caring whether they're pulling their child out for vacation. They think that they have the right to do that. And when they get you know, a letter from me, they react in a very negative and sometimes hostile way. I'm just really finding it difficult to get that importance out there on why, you know, they need to be here. I've actually attached from Attendance Works to our newsletter going out this week for parents to read, like really why it is important for the children to be in school, not just because of academics, but for all the reasons. I'm just not really sure how to handle some of these parents, because and it's like not just 1 year, it's like parents, some of my parents, they do this every year. They go on vacation. So if anybody has any advice, that would be great.
I always find it fascinating when families take vacations during the school year, and sometimes it can't be avoided. But if you get a committed athlete, they will never miss a game. Never. No vacation will get them off that football field on Friday nights. And families will plan around that. So it's interesting to me sometimes where we've got to maintain that same value on teaching and learning. And I think reinforcing the expectations, reinforcing the law, reinforcing the real life examples that students are going through. You know, when a student comes 10 minutes late to class, they are so frazzled. They have missed morning meeting. They have missed the lunch count. They have missed the morning. They are the ones who are impacted because they're frazzled, just like we're frazzled when we walk in 10 minutes to a meeting. So I think those conversations help. I think for us, sometimes we've had to have conversations with families where I go meet with them because it's a different face. That we may invite them to the district office. It's a different location, and reminding them I'm not as emotionally attached to the family. So I can be the kind of the bad cop in the room of reminding them of law and truancy. And it's an easier route for me to remind you than you standing in front of a judge and explaining it. And so that's the role I can take in being in that room, and then kind of exit out. And then the administrator and social worker are like, all right, well, now we're good cops again now that we've got her away. So I think using your resources in your district to change the face of the message could help too in those conversations, those reminders of truancy and some of those families. And also too, keep in mind that we've had to remind families, you know, when you are not cooperating with the school, you don't want to get into a situation of education neglect with DSS and going those routes. And I think when you put all cards on the table with the family, this is what this could lead to. This is what this means. This is what the definition of neglect can look like. Then I think you start putting that in a different perspective. So I think it's a lot of education. One of the battles with elementary is parents shifting from a daycare mentality to schools in session mentality. And that's just a lot of teaching, a lot of reiterating, which is why I told when I was an elementary principal, every single time you talk to a parent, mention attendance and how important that is. So I certainly understand your frustration with that.
I just wanted to share one quick thing too, and I echo that sentiment. Our district is so big on that, the communication. And when I share the compassionate accountability, it is with love that we teach our parents and our families what the expectation is and that we do those things. But I wanted to add a little bit of fun goes a long way too. So at the elementary level, we have things like poster contests, really getting our kids to buy in, sharing their stories on the news show. When kiddos go home and say, I want to be at school because I don't want my teacher to miss me, because every time I see them in the hallway, your teachers miss you. I miss you when you're not here. You got to be here. I miss your face in my place. So when I do all of those kinds of things, and we do that as a team here, like we said, it takes each one to reach one. Everybody's doing that. Our kiddos get excited about being here and they want to be here. And so we're having a poster contest this week coming up for why do you come to school and why is it important? And we're going to have a little prize and a little drawing. So at the elementary level, a little bit of fun goes a long way too. So we help our kiddos know, hey, we need you here to learn. So I just wanted to share that as a bit of encouragement that finding ways to infuse some fun in the day and having kids pop on the news show and share their thoughts has really helped us here to have our kids want to be in our spaces and places.
You guys make some great points. You know, kids want to be there for the activities. That's the whether it's football or something else. And one thing I've seen used effectively with parents is to say, have you ever thought about how left out your child feels when they come back after a week of missing school. And they may respond to that where they wouldn't respond to the instructional piece. The other thing, you mentioned a few comments back, you mentioned the extracurriculars. Athletes don't miss games, and they don't miss school on the week of the game either, because the coach expects them to be at school. That's amazing how kids will structure whatever they're doing and impress their parents to get to participate. Last weekend, my little 6-year-old grandson, who's in the 1st grade, didn't come spend a whole weekend with me because he had a 15-minute soccer match somewhere on Saturday back, from school. And so he didn't want to miss that. So I missed him, and so they will control their parents to some degree there.
I'll share that at the middle school level, one of the things I've shown parents in Power School is they have this nice little breakdown where it shows like where 10 days may not sound like a lot, but when you look at the class periods, because in middle school we're changing classes and they're in different class periods. So missing one day really isn't like missing one class, you're missing 6 classes. Mm-hmm. So showing them that missing 3 days is really like 18 classes you have missed, and how quickly that number of total classes that you've missed gets really big. And I said, one of the things that happens for middle schoolers is then they become anxious because they've missed so much that it builds a problem for them. And talking to parents about how we can avoid that building of anxiety and problems because they miss so much work is important in our conversations.
And in some of these comments that were made just in the last few minutes was the fact that a lot of these kids feel, if they can feel an attendance accountability to one special person at school, they will come. They don't want to face that person to say, "Where were you? I missed you." That's a big deal. So it's those connections. I'm going to move us along here. I want to really thank Kelly and Luann and Michelle for your support here and your participation as a panel.